It started like any other night on The Daily Show, but no one could have predicted the firestorm that Jon Stewart was about to ignite. Behind the desk, wearing his trademark smirk, he casually glanced at the camera. The audience, waiting for the usual lighthearted banter, were soon in for something they did not expect. Then, Stewart dropped a joke so sharp, so specifically targeted, that it split the internet wide open. Meghan Markle, he said, delivering the line with perfect timing, is basically a mini Brigitte Macron, great at slapping her man into place. That is it. With just one line, the whole room erupted, the crowd roared, and in that instant, the entire tone around Meghan Markle shifted. No longer was she the polished Duchess we once knew. This was different. This was a cultural shift, a statement wrapped in a joke, and the internet ate it up.
It doesn't have to be this way. Hey, girl. Down on your luck. You get a podcast, you can still terrorize people. And no, I do not want to be on it.
But wait, you might be wondering, what is the deal with Brigitte Macron? For those of you who do not know, Brigitte Macron, the First Lady of France, has been painted as a controversial figure in European media. She is decades older than her husband, President Emmanuel Macron, and often portrayed as controlling, assertive, and even domineering. A key moment that ignited this narrative, an infamous clip of her brushing off Emmanuel's hand at a public event, a gesture that lit up the headlines. Jon Stewart did not just toss this comparison into the mix casually. He built an entire comedy bit around it, constructing a biting satire of Meghan Markle's public persona. This was not some throwaway joke. It was a statement that raised eyebrows, made headlines, and left Meghan scrambling. For years, Meghan Markle has crafted an image as the modern, empowered royal who is challenging the monarchy and its outdated ways. But in one line, Stewart shattered that image, and suddenly the narrative around Meghan took a sharp turn. The joke was about more than just the comparison to Brigitte Macron. It was about control. It was about power dynamics in relationships. For years, Meghan Markle had been seen as the rebellious outsider, the woman who walked away from the royal family to live life on her terms. But Jon Stewart, with his comedic brilliance, saw something else. He did not just target her behavior, he targeted the carefully constructed image she had so meticulously maintained. Meghan, once hailed as the fresh-faced woman who had a voice and was not afraid to use it, was now painted as someone who used her platform for something more calculated. Stewart's joke hit so hard because it was not just aimed at a celebrity, it was aimed at the very brand Meghan had spent years cultivating. She is great at slapping her man into place, Stewart quipped, and with that, the floodgates opened. The reaction was immediate. Twitter, well, whatever we are calling it now, lit up. Memes popped up within minutes. People edited images of Meghan and Harry, placing them side by side with Brigitte and Emmanuel Macron. One meme had Harry awkwardly trailing behind Meghan at a red carpet event, trying to hold her hand while she waved him off, just like that famous clip of Brigitte and Emmanuel. It was hilarious, cutting, and most importantly, it made people think. For years, Meghan had been able to maintain this delicate balance. She was both the victim and the empowered rebel. She was both royal and renegade. But this joke, this one line from Jon Stewart, knocked that structure sideways. Suddenly, Meghan's brand felt off, like it had lost its authenticity. The balance she had carefully curated was no longer convincing. The fallout from this joke was not just about people laughing at her, it was about something much deeper. It was about the shift in how people were starting to view Meghan's brand. For months, reports had surfaced about her declining image. There were unfulfilled business deals, awkward interviews, and a growing sense that something just was not right. Meghan's podcast, Confessions of a Female Founder, which was supposed to showcase her intellect and insight, ended up becoming Exhibit A in the case against her brand's authenticity. The show had all the makings of a polished PR machine. Soft questions, vague affirmations, and no real answers. Stewart, with his usual bite, tore it apart. The joke about the podcast was not just funny, it was brutal, and it hit harder than it should have. He joked it was less about female founders and more about a foundering female. The crowd howled in laughter, but Meghan, behind closed doors, she was reportedly furious. And who could blame her? But here is the thing, most people did not see it as an attack. They saw it as a well-crafted bit of satire, calling out what many had been whispering for a long time, that Meghan's whole empowerment persona felt a little too manufactured. The public was not just questioning her anymore, they were laughing at her. Jon Stewart did not just make a joke about Meghan Markle. He made a statement about the cultural moment we are in. We live in a world where authenticity is everything. Meghan had built her brand on being real, on showing us who she truly was. An outsider, a rebel, a woman who would not conform. But what happens when that authenticity is called into question? What happens when people start to see through the polished exterior? That is what Stewart did. He did not create the backlash, he accelerated it. He exposed the cracks in the carefully constructed narrative Meghan had spent years building. And the worst part? It was not just the joke, it was the timing. Meghan's image had been faltering for months before Stewart even stepped up to the mic. So, what happened next? Well, things started to unravel. For years, Meghan had been seen as the shining star of the royal family, the American actress who became a Duchess, the woman who spoke up for women's rights, who became a voice for change. But now, it all felt like a carefully rehearsed act. Her podcast was just one example. Confessions of a Female Founder was marketed as a celebration of female entrepreneurship, but it landed flat. It was not raw or real. It was soft, vague, and filled with empty platitudes. Critics quickly pointed out that Meghan had never actually founded a company. The only thing she had really built was a media brand tied to her royal title, and even that was not holding up. The problem was not just that the podcast was not working, it was that it fed into the narrative that Meghan's public persona was more about performance than authenticity, and once people start seeing you as a performer, the magic is gone. And here's the thing that made Jon Stewart's joke so dangerous. It was not wild or conspiratorial. It was not even mean-spirited. It was just well observed. It tapped into a truth that many people were already thinking, but were not brave enough to say. Meghan's brand of strength and leadership, once seen as revolutionary, was starting to feel hollow. The carefully constructed narrative was cracking, and the public was starting to notice. In the world of media, perception is everything, and when your carefully crafted brand starts to feel fake, it is a hard thing to recover from. This was not just about Meghan anymore. This was about the larger cultural moment we are in. Meghan and Harry had built their post-royal brand on being real. They had left the monarchy to be authentic, to escape the suffocating control of the palace. But outside those palace walls, their new life started to feel just as staged. The paparazzi walks, the Netflix documentary, the carefully timed appearances, all of it began to feel orchestrated. And once authenticity becomes a performance, it becomes fodder for comedy. That is exactly what Jon Stewart did. He did not create the Meghan backlash, he accelerated it. And now Meghan finds herself in the midst of a cultural shift. She is no longer the icon of empowerment. She is the punchline of a joke that everyone already knew. So what is next for Meghan Markle? Can she bounce back from this? Maybe, but the truth is, it is going to be hard. The audience that once rallied behind her now sees her as a performance. Every smile, every appearance, every statement feels rehearsed. Her authenticity, once her strongest asset, now feels manufactured. Jon Stewart did not destroy Meghan Markle. He did not need to. All he did was light a match and set fire to the public's perception of her carefully controlled image. And now, in the world of memes, viral jokes, and instant reactions, it is too late to put out the flames. Meghan Markle is no longer seen as the voice of modern royalty. She is just another celebrity trying to stay relevant. The question now is, can she regain her authenticity, or has the tide already turned? The real challenge Meghan faces is not defamation or hatred, it is irrelevance. And as the memes continue to circulate, the public continues to move on. Whether she likes it or not, the spotlight is no longer on her. It is on the next big thing.